On December 25th, 1987 is when I lost my mother to cancer. Most kids were opening presents on Christmas morning. For me, when I was trying to do that, I remember coming out of my bedroom and my mother being gone. The last time I ever saw her was the night before, on Christmas Eve. That event right there really started to shape the rest of my life on how my relationship with trauma developed into adulthood. Between losing my mother, growing up with an abusive stepmother and alcoholic father, escaping to the military at 18, going on deployment, getting a severe case of PTSD, losing my stepmother, then losing my father to self-deletion. All this happening while I'm trying to make my way in the world, get an education, and work a real job. So these kind of events that happened are really what brought me to wanting to understand the mind, wanting to understand how to help myself. Because one thing I did understand was that the mind is the greatest enemy. It's our greatest asset, but at the same time, when it's untrained and left unchecked, it can start to harass us with thoughts, replay memories, trigger emotions, and do things that bring us out of a state of peace. For something that we operate in all the time, a lot of us have a very limited understanding of our own minds and how they work. And I remember after losing my father, falling into deep depression, alcoholism, toxic relationships, drug addiction, you name it, it happened. One resounding thing that was, I guess, a recurring thought over the whole process was how to get a hold of the mind. What am I going to do? And I tried conventional therapy. I really did. I went to a psychologist, then to a psychiatrist. Their default answer was to put me on sleeping pills and antidepressants. And I tried that. And guess what happened? I developed an addiction to them to the point that I was starting to have liver failure. And I was getting really sick. And so I had to stop and then go through the process of withdrawals, which were worse than the actual symptoms themselves. So, if this is happening to you, if you're at a place in your life where you're starting to question things, you are at the same place I was, looking for answers in places you're not actually finding them, because conventional solutions, sometimes they kind of suck. I mean, hey, they work for some people, great. But if you're someone that doesn't want to rely on toxic medications that have negative effects on the body, if you want to actually overcome things and take your destiny into your own hands, then you're going to do that by understanding the mind and how to manage it. This is what brought me on a journey all across different continents in the world. It started with quitting my job and getting out of my past relationship and moving out to the jungles of the Philippines, living in a sustainable living project. It brought me to the foothills of the Himalayas, where I was learning yoga with a Vedic Hindu monk. It brought me to China, where I was learning martial arts in a Shaolin temple. It brought me up to the highlands of Tibet, where I was studying meditation under a Tibetan teacher. It brought me to Nepal, where I was trekking the Himalayas. It brought me back to the Philippines during the pandemic, where I lived with a troop of spear fishermen. Learned how to freedive and spearfish underwater during a time where nobody had any income and food was very limited. So all of these compounding of these experiences were my attempts to find ways to understand my own mind, manage my own emotions, and bring myself out of a dark place. The book I wrote on this is called Unfiltered Wisdom, which outlines every section of the journey, what I learned, the wisdom that you can take away from this, and how you can apply these things to your life. If this is something that you're interested in, there's a link below, somewhere around here, where you can go to my website and you can sign up to get a copy of my book. Totally free, no strings attached. There's even a guided reading experience, so each week you'll get an email that gives you the themes and concepts to understand per chapter. The reason I'm doing this is because I know there's a lot of people out there that are like me. They're in a really screwed up, crazy place in life. You're trying to make sense of things. You're trying to find answers. You're trying to find ways to find a sense of groundiness and peace in yourself again. And everything everybody's telling you is pulling you in all sorts of different directions, but you're getting absolutely nowhere. The idea of taking control of your own mind of understanding what drives your triggers. How are you responding to your emotions? How are you managing your emotions? What are your thoughts that trigger around your emotions? What kind of auto suggestions you follow? And what to do in place of those. The book goes into detail of all that kind of stuff. So something you're interested in, you can get it below. It's my gift to the world to help people out who are going through what I went through. But again, your mind is your greatest asset, but also your greatest enemy if left unchecked. Learning how to discipline, manage, and control the mind through detailed regimens and practices that focus on this very thing are one of the best ways forward, because if you rely on conventional solutions, you're going to become dependent on a product that's designed by a system that doesn't want to heal you. It wants to treat you. And it treats you by constantly feeding you different medications that you're going to need on a regular basis. Now, sure, that works out for some people, and I'm not saying it doesn't. But if this is something that you are not really wanting to explore on your own, a road you're not willing to go down, then the only alternative is to take your power back, find a way to manage your own mind, and find your own peace on your own. Because as hard as it may seem, no one cares about you enough to do this for you but you.